Today we're going to make my pea, courgette and spinach soup. Now this soup is absolutely amazing, not only because it tastes great, but it also doesn't require that many ingredients, comes together very, very quickly, and my personal favourite, has minimal chopping. So let's go over the ingredients we're going to be using today. Now firstly, it wouldn't be a pea soup if we didn't have peas in it. So here I have some frozen peas, that's perfect to put into the soup. Any frozen peas would do basically. We also have some spinach. This is organic spinach that I've chosen, it's baby spinach. You can use other types of spinach, you just might need to chop it up a little bit, but this will wilt very, very nicely and quickly into the soup when we're making it. We have some courgettes, which also go into the soup. And in the front here, we just have some fresh parsley that we're going to add to the end, some stock cubes. Just a note on stock cubes, if you haven't seen any of my other recipes, stock cubes, how many you need really, really depends on the type of stock cube you're going to be using. So you may need a few more if the flavour's not so strong, or you may need a tiny bit less. So do it as per your taste buds, but I just give you an idea for guidance. And this is also gluten-free stock cubes as well. So if you have any problems with gluten, that will be perfect for you. At the front we've got some crushed garlic, and we've also got some vegan butter, some olive oil, some plant-based milk. Now if you have a gluten intolerance, then probably don't use oat milk because it does have trace elements of gluten in it. Please try another plant-based milk. Obviously the flavour will change depending on which one you're going to be using, but maybe a nut, like a cashew nut if you can have it, or even maybe an almond might work too. We have just here in this small bowl, we've got a little bit of dried parsley that we're going to put in while we're cooking, and some ancho chilies too, and I think, oh yeah, some water. We need some water to turn it into soup, but I think that's all of the ingredients. So if you want any details about timings, amounts, etc., please look below this video and then you'll find all of that information there. Okay, so firstly we're going to chop the courgettes and then the parsley. Now to do this, just chop off the ends, and then I tend to chop it in half, and then half again the other way, and then half the other way. So basically you end up with quarters. That's what we want. And then that seems to be a perfect size, and it cooks about the same amount of time that the peas take to cook as well, so that makes it a little bit better. And then we just do some chopping. So as you can see, it's quite small. Now the other thing I like about this soup is it's a real transitional soup, because pea soup on its own can be quite thick and quite heavy and definitely taste of peas. You're going to have enough pea to like pure pea soup. But what I like about this soup is because you've got the courgettes in it and you've also got the spinach, it really does lighten up the soup a lot for me. And so it works really well during winter. Just chop that. But it also works really well in spring and autumn too, and even in summer. And you can vary the thickness depending on your kind of tastes. Some people like really thick soup, some people like thinner soup. So you can really vary that too. I'm just going to put these in the bowl. That's me singing to myself if you haven't figured that out. And then we're just going to chop the parsley. So this is going to be blended, so you only need to do like a really rough chop on this. There you go. When I said this soup was really minimal on the chopping, I really meant it, because we've done all the chopping. So I'm going to get the saucepan in a minute, and then we're just going to start putting it in the saucepan and start cooking, and it will be shortly ready to eat. So the saucepan is heating up, and so we're just going to add the oil and let that heat up a little bit before we add the courgettes. Okay, next we're going to add the courgettes. Now you're going to just let these fry at a medium heat for maybe around 4 or 5 minutes, a bit like what you do when you're cooking onions. And this is going to allow them to get just a tiny bit of colour, bring out their flavour, and also it's just going to soften them slightly as well. So as you can hear by the sound and see by the smoke, this is cooking down really nicely. And I've just added the garlic and the chilli and the parsley, and just cook for a minute, because shortly we're going to be adding the peas, and that obviously is going to lower the temperature. So now I'm going to add the peas. I've already added the stock with the water, and then we're just going to add it into the soup. Now let's see if I can do this without spilling it all over myself. Excellent. So, just give it a little bit of a stir. Feel free to add salt or pepper at this particular point in time, or a little bit later, depending on your flavour and how much you like and how you like to do it. But what you can, I don't know if you can see, but we have just literally just covered the vegetables in stock. I'm going to add the lid on so it's not going to evaporate completely away. And if we need a little bit more water, I will add a little bit more water later on, and then obviously check the flavour. But I want to add some milk, the plant-based milk, and that's going to sort of make it a little bit more liquidy, so I don't want this soup to be too thin. I like it quite medium, so that's the reason why I do that. I think we're about ready to add the spinach. So if you can look here, if you can see beyond the steam, the courgette has cooked way down. Peas always look the same anyway, so they don't look any different. But we're going to add, it's only going to need a minute or two to finish this soup, as in cooking time. So we're just going to add the spinach, a few bits here. We're going to add the spinach, and then we're just going to cover it for a minute or two, and then mix it together, and then that will be the spinach done. And then once that's done, we can just add the final ingredients, and it's almost ready to serve. So the spinach has now wilted down, and I'm going to add the parsley and then the vegan butter. Now you might wonder why I add the vegan butter at the end, and this is just a personal choice. Other people might do it very, very differently. But for me, it adds that creamy, buttery flavour that often when you're eating something that is plant-based, you miss it. I miss it personally. So by adding it at the end with the plant-based milk, you it's not quite cream, let's be honest, but it does have a bit of that kind of flavour profile, which I really, really love. So just mixing that in so it melts. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're just going to add the plant-based milk. And we're going to just let it cool for a few minutes. So for health and safety reasons, before we actually use the hand blender and turn it into soup. Now just have patience when you're blending the soup, because with the peas in this one, it does take a little while to actually blend the soup. So you might be there for a few minutes. So just have patience, but it will be worth it, I promise you. And now the soup is blended, this is the bit where I think, soups really come together, because You can play, tweak with the flavour, so if you need to add more salt, if you need to add more garlic, I would add a little bit of garlic powder instead of raw garlic if you feel like you want a little bit more. If you want it thinner or thicker, well, thicker, there's not a lot you can do about that at the moment, but you can also make it a little bit thinner. So with this soup, I want to add a little bit more plant-based milk, as it's on that sort of, how's the politest way of describing it? So you know when you're cooking soup that's uncovered and it's a certain consistency and it plops and it just splatters everything. That is kind of, I don't like that consistency of soup, and also I tend to get it everywhere. So I just like it a little bit more sort of on the liquid side. And as you can see, that's looking really, really good. Now this is optional, but it does boost and bring out the flavour, is adding some fresh lemon. Now just be careful with this because it can be very quickly overpowering. So just add a little bit and then do a taste test. And then if you want a little bit more, you can do another taste test too and add a little bit more if that's what you like. But just, as I said, little by little on this. It's optional, you don't have to add it, but I do find it actually does bring the flavour together quite nicely. That came together much quicker than I always expect. And let's get tasting it, shall we? I love having soup for lunch. I find it so filling, so healthy, but also delicious. It's, because it doesn't have mint in it, doesn't taste too summery. It just tastes absolutely lovely. The flavour of the pea is definitely there. You can taste the spinach. The courgette is there underneath as well. But it just is absolutely delicious. Let's get a bit more. That will certainly fill me up today. Thank you so much. It really makes a difference to me as someone who is new and starting out at this. When you do make comments, you do like the videos, and you tell me how the recipes have gone. I love to hear it. So let me enjoy my lunch, and I will see you next time. Take care.